Hey, this is part 2 of the invention of wings discussion from Miss Lawson's class. Okay, so some quotes that I thought were really interesting throughout part 2. One of the first ones that she says is Sarah describes herself when she's arriving at the waltzing party during the social season. And she says that she is arriving at the glittering entrance like a lamb to slaughter. And again, we kind of ended part 1 with talking about how women were treated and the way that they were viewed. And I think this kind of reiterates that she was at the slaughterhouse, to the slaughter being who she should marry. And going back a little bit to that, how true that became a reality for her. She was literally slaughtered. Well, not literally, but she was very metaphorically slaughtered. Her heart was slaughtered. My aspiration to become a jurist had been laid to rest in the graveyard of failed hopes, an all-female establishment. And again, that goes back to women, and women didn't have rights, and they couldn't, their dreams and their hopes and their dreams couldn't be fulfilled because of their place in society. So who was engaged to Sarah? And what did he ask Sarah to put in the handkerchief that she threw over the fence? How did the father feel about that suitor and their engagement? And how did the mother feel about it? Why did they not get married? Another quote that I thought was interesting, she said, "My one respite was striking out alone on the high-spirited stallion named Hiram. The horse had been given to me when I was 14, and since he did not fall into the category of slave, slave owner, or handsome beau, I was left to love him without complication." The idea that everything that she loves, whether it was Hetty, whether it was her fiance, because they were still, to be married at this point, her parents, everything seemed to have complication to it for one reason or the other. So this kind of gave her something that she could love and it not be complicated. Another interesting quote said, "I understood suddenly that it wasn't only miles that separated Handful and me. It was some other growing gulf, one that had been there long before I'd left." And we see throughout these two girls that were so close when they were younger, and their ambitions and everything were so grand, how the world kind of basically broke them. They've kind of fell into this system, and that relationship changed over time, although there was still an emotional connection for the two girls. In the leather book of Goods and Chattels, where did the slave's worth appear? How much was Charlotte worth? How much was Hetty worth? How did Hetty feel about this? And what did Mama tell her? When the Grimkes returned to Charleston a day early from their stay at the plantation in Belmont, what was Handful doing? How did this make Sarah feel? And what does Sarah realize about herself because of this? We kind of see from this point to the end of part 2, Sarah really getting a lot of epiphanies about how she feels. I mean, she is now, 19 or so years old, plus or minus a little bit, and she's really becoming her own person and trying to figure out who she is and what she believes, and that not rebellious, but that very independent young girl is still inside of her. Even though the world is trying to beat it down, she still has that within her. That is who she is.